Y'all ready? Y'all feeling all right?
What's that sound?
It's a hip-hop Cloverleaf podcast.
Hip-hop Cloverleaf.
What up? Let's go!
Cloverleaf podcast.
Thank you for tonight. Yes.
You are now listening to the Hip-hop Cloverleaf podcast.
What up, what up, what up? Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and good nights. And welcome back to the Hip Hop Cloverleaf podcast. We are your hosts. My name is O. My name's EC. And in today's episode, we are celebrating the life of Mr. Earl Simmons, aka DMX. Keep it locked, y'all. This is Hip Hop Cloverleaf. What up, everybody? Welcome back to the Hip Hop Cloverleaf podcast. 4 leaves, 4 elements. Y'all know the drill. What's good, DC?
What's up, man?
How you doing today?
I'm good.
Yeah,
Nice and early today. A little bit earlier.
earlier than normal. Yeah, we got
Yeah.
we got some plans later on, so taking a little early today.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So today, as most of you guys know, unfortunately, we have some sad news. Legendary artist DMX has passed away. I don't know if you guys have seen it. I feel like most everybody should know already. I mean, I've seen it everywhere on the timeline. Just R.I.P. DMX, and everybody listened to his music again, which is nice to to remember DMX. And unfortunately, he did pass away. He was hospitalized early April. It's not fully disclosed on why he went in there. Some reports are pointing to overdose of drugs, but it was ultimately caused by a heart attack.
Yeah, man. So let me ask, DMX, did you listen to him a lot? How'd you get introduced to DMX?
I remember my parents listening to DMX. I think Party Up was probably the most recognizable song. Y'all gonna make me lose my mind. Up. Yeah, everybody knows that one. I would say one of my earliest memories of DMX would be from the movie Like Mike, and when Lil Bow Wow gets in the car with what's his name? Not Tracy Morgan. Morris Chestnut.
Yeah,
Morris Chestnut. When they're dancing in the car, I remember anytime that scene would come up, I would always get really excited and sing the words. What about you? What was DMX to you? Something about DMX?
Yeah, man. I remember listening to his early stuff a lot. Back when I first got, I talked about how I got introduced to hip hop. I was listening to my brother's iPod, and I remember he had a bunch of old DMX on there. So that's how I remember him. I got introduced to him. I remember the first few artists that I bumped were definitely like Pac, Biggie, and the old school artists. And DMX was a huge one as well. His first albums, what I remember a lot, and what I do remember also is I remember your pops had that, I forgot what car, it was like a Cutlass or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And he used to bump some DMX on there as well. So that's what I remember of him. And of course, I remember his movies. The one I really loved a lot is the one with Jet Li. I forgot what the movie
I think
called.
there's two of them. There's Cradle to the Grave.
Cradle to the Grave.
And I
that's
think
the one.
Romeo Must Die is the other one.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Romeo that was dope as well. I liked both for sure. That's what I remember a lot, just watching those movies when they were on on MTV or whatever. Yeah, so that's what I remember about DMX. And of course, he meant a lot to all of us, man. So for today, since he did pass, what we wanted to do is just highlight his life, kind of give a bio of him, just highlighting some of his great accomplishments. And, I don't want this to be like a sad episode. Of
course not,
so
no.
We're just celebrating this guy's life because, man, he meant a lot to hip-hop. He meant a lot. So let's just start with basic facts about Mr. Earl. DMX, real name Earl Simmons. He was born in Baltimore, Maryland on December 18th, 1970. And that sticks out a lot to me because that's the same age my pop. So that's crazy, man. He went out too early for sure.
He was 50 years old.
Yeah, 50 years old, man.
50 years young, excuse me.
Yeah. As a youngster, DMX family moved to Yonkers, New York. So that's where he had most of his childhood growing up. He had an abusive childhood. He jumped around different group homes, and he was basically raised in the streets. He's been in and out of juvenile detention growing up, and even as an adult, you know, he had some problems with the law and stuff. I remember I just watched just like a few weeks ago. I watched I don't know. Do you know the show Drink Champs?
You're the one who showed me what that is. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool. If you guys haven't checked it out,
Yeah,
Drink
Drink
Champs
Champs
is pretty
is a podcast by the rapper Nori, another New York legend. But he basically just has different rappers on there, and what they do, they just tell stories. He just gets stories out of them, and
And they
he,
drink.
Yeah, they
That's pretty
drink for
sick. I
sure,
like
for
that
sure.
show.
It makes the stories come out better. But I remember he had DMX on there not just a few weeks ago, and I watched the whole episode. And you know, when he passed, I watched it again, and I remember on there he was saying how he used to rob people as a youngster coming up, and yeah, and what he would do is he said he'd be smart about it. Like he wouldn't just rob anybody. Like what he'd go straight to the source. So he would be robbing the drug dealers, you know, the guys with the
Dang.
big money. So he
Yeah.
would wait for them to deal and everything, and he would just rob them, man.
Man, just plotting.
Yeah, that guy was ruthless, man. So of course this got him arrested multiple times. You know, if you look through his, you know, his bio, there's several records of him having trouble with the law. But one thing about him, it's really true. This guy is a huge dog lover, and I remember on Drink Champs, he tells the story of how kind of he got into dogs. And you know, it's funny. I just saw the video for what's that? Slippin'.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that video portrays exactly the story he told on Drink Champs. But he just said that one day he robbed a dog from I don't know from where he robbed it, and he brought it home to his mom. But once he brought it home, his mom was like, "Nah, get this shit out of here. You know, I don't want dogs around here." So he took it. You know, in New York apartment buildings, he went all the way to the top, and he went outside, and he kind of just laid with him. And just fell asleep, and then he said that's how he developed a love for dogs. So
Damn.
yeah, so he's had a record of saying that, you know, dogs meant a whole lot to him, and he really, like, you know how they call him DMX the dog.
Yeah.
So that's where it comes from. Actually, I think it was his first dog. His name was Boomer, and he actually got it tatted on his chest. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Oh,
he said it
interesting
has
fact.
the words "One Love Boomer," and then it has the dog's face on it. It's crazy. Yeah, man, this guy was real about his dogs, man. DMX found hip hop as an escape growing up in that street life, and although he did have many sisters, he often was alone in the streets. He had no brother, so he was the only guy. He has said that the streets made him who he became to be. That's how he kind of developed his inner strength and the ability to analyze life inside and out. And this was all transitioned into his music, man. If you listen to his music, he talks about some dark shit, man, especially in that first album. The name DMX is actually an acronym for Divine Master of the Unknown, but it's also been reinterpreted as Dark Man X. So that's what it stands for, if you were wondering. But he also got the name from a drum machine that he used to use growing up, and it was called the Oberheim DMX.
I think, yeah, I remember looking at that and thinking, wow, like, you can get a name from damn near everywhere.
Yeah, man. And so this guy, he started off as a beatboxer, actually. That's how he got introduced to hip hop, and he would DJ as well. And I keep referencing Drink Champs, but he has some amazing stories on there, so he touches on his childhood as well. But he was well known as a battle rapper eventually, and so he made a name for himself in the battle scene. And that's how he first started gaining recognition, at least in the local area. And eventually the first time he gained mainstream recognition was when he was featured on the Source magazine's Unsigned Hype section. And if you guys don't know, the Source magazine was like a huge thing back in like the 90s and the early 2000s. They would basically, what they would do, when albums would come out, they would give them mics. So the whole thing was like, out of 5 mics, how many mics did this album get?
Okay.
And so that was the big thing of the Source. And of course, if you guys know the story, they got into some beef with actually DMX got into some beef with them as well. And it was a whole big thing, but I just want to let it be known that the Source was a huge thing back then.
I saw that Twista had this on in the sauce. Twista had it on in the sauce.
Shout out Kanye. Is the first deal that he got was with Columbia Records, and that was in 1992. However, he really struggled at Columbia, and he was given very little attention at the label. there was other artists that they were focusing on, and they kind of put him in the backseat. They tried. He released a single through Columbia called "Born Loser," and it was meant as a promotional single, but it actually did bad. So I guess you could call it a flop. And he was very outspoken. He's been very outspoken about the fact that Columbia Records kind of did him dirty. So eventually he got let go of the label. X honed his gritty style, in the rapping sense, and even in his appearance, the way he would dress, and he would hone that rugged voice that he had. Eventually, he got a second shot with the music with Def Jam. Def Jam ended up signing him in '97. But while at Def Jam, before he even had any albums out or anything, he would make a buzz for himself, and he would do this by being featured on other artists' singles. He was featured on LL Cool J's 4321. He was featured on Mike Geronimo's Usual Suspects, Mace's 24 Hours to Live, Ice Cube's We Be Clubbin' remix, Onyx's Shut 'Em Down, and he even wrote and performed a song for The Lox, and it was called Money, Power, and Respect. And then one big thing about The Lox, they were part of the Rough Riders as well. Rough Riders is it's a whole different thing that we're just gonna touch on it. We're not gonna talk about it too much right now because we have a whole thing planned for Rough Riders, and we'll get into that on different episodes. He was doing all of this while building hype for his debut album.
Okay.
And
so he was, like you said, he was working with the other artists, trying to create a name for himself. Everybody's starting to see, oh, DMX. Oh, who's DMX?
Yeah.
I can think of before Kendrick really blew up for me, I would see him on features, and then that's what really got me interested into his other music. And I think that's a good way to promote, especially as an artist on the come up, is to get on people's music who have already established themselves.
Yeah.
And then create that, like you said, that buzz for yourself.
That makes sense, because imagine you get on these other artists' songs, and you kill it. People are gonna be checking for you, like, who's this guy?
Yeah,
when is this guy dropping? So eventually, he released his own first single at Def Jam, and it was called "Get at Me, Dog." It was released in February '98, and this was an absolute smash. This is what really got him on the map for a lot of people, and so that was basically his beginning at Def Jam for. We had an amazing career. So after this was out, only a few months later of that same year in May, he released his debut, and it was called "It's Dark and Hell Is Hot." And this is regarded as a classic hip hop album. It debuted at #1 on the Billboard. It sold over 250,000 physical copies in its first week. And remember, this was in the 90s, so this no social media, no way to promote it online or anything. This is like you actually had to go buy physical copies, go stand in line, which is crazy, man. It's a whole different era. It's like no streaming services or anything. And it went on to sell over 5 million copies overall. And to this day, it's probably a lot more than that.
I think it's probably gonna get hella streams, especially after his passing. I think, yeah.
And this album made DMX a worldwide superstar. Kendrick talks about, I forget what, a few songs. He talks about this album a lot, and this is what actually got him into rap, and that's true for a lot of artists. DMX was very, very influential to many legendary artists, even from today.
I remember real quick.
Yeah.
I remember I was gonna play in a basketball tournament, and I was just kind of listening to music on my headphones, and I was just getting hyped. I was trying to think of something to get me pumped up, and one of the songs that came to mind was DMX's song "X Gonna Give It to You." Dude, like that song, like
definitely a hype song.
Yeah. He has that energy, like you said, his rugged voice, that it's just like, it's gritty, like it makes you want to go do some shit.
Yeah, for real. And it just fits his style so much, man. Even like when you read about his upbringing and everything, it's crazy. So after his first album, it's crazy that same year later, just a few months later in December, he released his second album. So he was building off the hype of the first one, like, people really fucking with me. I want to release some more. And so that second album was called Blood of My Blood, Flesh of My Flesh. And it did just as good, man. There was high demand for DMX at this point. He's a worldwide superstar.
You said that was in '98, right?
Yeah, that was in '98. And again, just remember, this is the times where you physically had to go buy albums at the stores. All his albums, at this point, his 2 albums, they would sell out quickly everywhere. But on the second album, DMX said this about it: "I want Flesh of My Flesh to be like my connection to the community. I want to say what's on my people's minds, soak up all their pain, I've learned that when I take it all in, I can make one brother's pain be understood by the world. Yeah, it's a powerful line, man. And this album also made history. He was the first record recording artist to have his first 2 albums reach #1 in the same year. And the only person who did that before was Tupac.
Dang.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was wild because coming up, he was getting a lot of Tupac comparisons.
I can see that.
Yeah, just the way that he was coming up. And of course, even his appearance, because he kind of looked, just because he was another bald dude, probably. But yeah, he was getting a lot of Tupac. And I remember seeing a quote from him. I don't have it here, so it's not exact quote, but he kind of said that they asked him, like, what do you think about the Tupac comparisons? And he kind of was like, Tupac, I respect him and everything. He was another legend, but don't compare me to him because, I'm my own. So he wanted to be his own.
I think after Pac died, everybody was like, what's next? What's next for hip hop?
Yeah, exactly. And remember, this was like coming off after their deaths, after Biggie and Tupac's death. People were looking for like, all right, who's the next guy?
Who's the next leader? Who's gonna? Yeah.
And then on this second album, DMX said he wrote this one fast, and of course, man, it just came out just a few months after his debut. So he said he wrote a lot of those songs fast, but he also had others to choose from that he had in the bank. And then in March of 1999, there was a huge tour that happened. It was called the Hard Knock Life Tour. And of course, it was Jay-Z's tour. And DMX was at this tour. He toured with Jay, Method Man, and Redman at this tour. And
most of Def Jam, the artists in Def Jam were on this tour.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and it was one of the biggest and largest hip-hop tours.
They actually made a documentary off of it, and I'll get into that in a little bit too. But
And December of 99, he released his third album, and then there was X. And it was his third consecutive album to reach #1.
Sheesh.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Dang.
And then his next 2 albums, The Great Depression and The Grand Champ, were released in 2001 and 2003. And they also reached #1. So he had 5 in a row #1 albums. Yeah. And then it wasn't until his 6th album that it finally lost that #1 spot, but it came at #2, which is crazy.
Dang.
Yeah.
So that was like DMX in as far as like music goes, but not only did he dominate the music charts, he also did things in cinema, and that's
superstar.
Dude, it's crazy, man. I feel like to be an artist, to not only be able to reach those kind of heights in the music world, I feel like it's already hard to make it. It's not easy to make things hot or popular, and then to do it on the big screen too. Like
there's only a few rappers that have done that who have been able to do that successfully.
Yeah,
and that's crazy, man.
So in 1998, DMX made those 2 albums that you were talking about, and they both debuted at #1. And then so that in the same year in 98, he also came out in a movie called Belly, which is referred to as like
it's like a classic hood movie.
It's like one of those. Yeah, it's definitely one of those movies. And then
it's a dope movie, man.
This movie also featured artists such as Nas, T-Boss from TLC, Method Man, Terrell Hicks, and I think just being able to see hip hop artists on the big screen, for me, I think does it like it just creates it's just I don't know how to explain it. It just goes a little bit further because these are people that you listen to, and not only are you listening to, but you also see them on the big screen, right? Because I think that opens up more of an audience than just hip hop listeners. Now you're going international. You're going on the big screen. You can. Everybody around the world is able to see them, and then if they're interested, they're like, oh, who's this? They do a little more research and they go listen to their music, and then it just becomes just that little seed that grows into something more than that. Belly was actually directed by Hype Williams, who is a music video director, and this is his only movie that ever like fully worked. I think he had like 2 or 3 other movies, but eventually they came down like during production. So this was Hype Williams' only movie, and it was cool because a lot of the artists have already worked with Hype Williams. Hype Williams
he's very known in the hip hop for sure.
Hype has also worked with artists such as TLC, Michael Jackson, Kanye West, Will Smith. So, in as far as like music and hip hop goes, Hype Williams is very well known. And then for him to be directing and producing a movie, that's pretty cool. So you basically get like a group of well known like friends and artists who come together and they come out with a movie that makes a statement in black cinema. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So critics didn't really take Belly too well. They thought it was very like, I don't even know. I want to say just because it was more like tailored to black culture, I feel like that's a reason why it didn't get a good reviews, because not a lot of people like they don't understand it. So like that was kind of whack. But to people who know that life, I think they understand it a lot more, so that's why it means more to them, and it makes more sense. So it's a better movie for that.
And also, there's like, I don't know. I feel like a lot has to do also with what was portrayed in that movie too. Those kind of movies, like you said, I don't think a lot of people take to it.
There was quoted that Belly blazed the trail in black cinema, and in case you didn't know, Belly was actually shut down mid-production for a few months because of its excessive violence used to portray the urban life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
So I can't imagine like doing a movie and then like you're all midway and they shut it down because they're saying, "Oh no, it's too violent." That's stupid, bro. Like it's like,
yeah.
Have you guys ever seen Belly? Have you seen Belly?
Yeah, I've seen Belly. It's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah. But like I don't know. They're saying that they're shutting it down because it's too violent. But this shit's actually going on, and it makes me mad because you're censoring something that's actually happening.
That's real.
You don't want other people to see that like, oh, this is too much. This is too real. But exactly, it's real though. Like why not
like
put it out?
Even the Boys in the Hood got a lot of controversy as well. But again, those are real movies, man. Shit like that's really happening.
DMX was also featured in a movie Romeo Must Die, which came out in 2000. And I think that was the one you were talking about with Jet Li. That was one of them. And then the Aaliyah, she was an R&B singer, was also featured in that movie.
Rest in peace, Aaliyah, man.
Yes, and rest in peace to DMX as well. This movie actually made $91 million, and also came with the soundtrack that both featured Aaliyah and DMX.
Wow.
And that was cool. That was cool. I think a lot of good movies. Excuse me. There are very few movies with a good soundtrack, and I think this was one of them for sure.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite soundtracks as far as the movie goes?
Oh wow, soundtracks. Oh, first one that comes to mind is Above the Rim soundtrack.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
Get Rich or Die Trying. I thought that was a really good one.
Yeah, that's a great soundtrack as well. Shit. What other soundtracks are there?
Holes.
Holes. I don't even remember.
I like that Digging Up song. I don't know. I've always really liked that song. It's funny because especially when like Disney or like younger or like what is it called? Big companies that aren't necessarily into hip hop try to get and they make hip hop. It's funny to hear the sound. You know what I mean? Like not censored hip hop, but like what's their perception of hip hop and how they put it out. It's pretty funny. What's it called? DMX also came back with another movie with Jet Li called Cradle to the Grave, and he had a slightly bigger role. And then he also had a movie called Exit Wounds where he was the main character. So along with putting out music and going on tours, he was also putting in work on the big screen, and then he was doing a really good job. I think he's a pretty good actor.
He's great. Yeah, he was definitely great. I remember back to the Drink Champs when I was watching it. He told the story of when he was filming Cradle to the Grave. I forgot. I think it was DJ Envy that pulled up, and midway through production, DMX just took off. He took off with Envy. Yeah, and like midway through production.
Oh, okay.
Like the filming, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
like one of the scenes or whatever. And they took off on. I think it was like. I think he said that he gave Envy a car or something, but they just took off, went to go drive, and they went to go shoot pool and like downtown. And that's crazy. Like this guy just took off in production. They just had to wait for him. They just had to wait. He said they went to go do their thing, and then they came back. And that's just the kind of guy
they
that
just
DMX
waited for it.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
DMX is also featured in a documentary called Backstage. That was a documentary I was referring to when we were talking about the Hard Knock Life tour. So basically, like what they went on tour and it was just getting filmed. And they went touring around the U.S. and it included Jay-Z, Ja Rule, Method Man, Redman, DJ Clue, Swiss Beats, Eve, Diddy, Busta Rhymes, and anybody who was really on the Def Jam roster at the time. They got to like just see what it was like behind the scenes, on tour, on the road, like all this stuff, and with all those artists coming along. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen this documentary.
That must have been a crazy ass tour, man.
I'm saying you have a bunch of these like legendary artists all in one spot. Yeah. Did like visiting different cities in the U.S. I couldn't imagine the shit that went down behind the scenes. I can't even imagine what didn't get caught on camera. And speaking of Def Jam, DMX also was featured on a video game called Def Jam Vendetta.
Oh,
and I know you know
that game.
Dude,
that brings back memories.
That game was, I remember on the PS2, my uncle had rented it. I want to say from Hollywood Video at the time. And it was crazy to me to see artists on a video game. Yeah. And it was like wrestling style. And I was like, dude, like not my favorite artists, but I just sort of recognized
it was so new. Like,
it was such a new idea. Like I know to put music and video games all in one. Like the music that it came with, like that was a good soundtrack too. I remember.
Yeah. Oh hell yeah! Of course.
DMX had his own ring. I think Nori had his own ring. That one I remember for sure. His name was on the mat, and it was kind of like a WWE type of style. And I remember like you can get kind of like a game breaker. It was like I don't remember what it was called, but as soon as you filled up that bar, you like you fucking went Super Saiyan.
Damn, they should bring back this game, man.
And then they also had what was it? Def Jam 5 from New York, and I think they updated the artist and then Def Jam Icon, and it kind of went away from the wrestling style, and it was more like street fighting, which I thought was pretty cool.
Man.
But I would say Def Jam Vendetta was probably my favorite.
Yeah.
That was definitely my favorite.
Vendetta was dope, man. That shit was hard.
I also wanted to touch on DMX at Woodstock. And it seems like every few weeks this video pops up, and especially now after his passing, this video has been popped up a lot more. He's wearing like red overalls, and it's like a hot summer day, and you can see him performing, and then the camera turns into the crowd, and it looks like there's just
like a never-ending crowd.
Like you cannot see the end of this crowd. It looks like he's performing in front of the world, and
that's Woodstock. Woodstock.
Yeah, that's Woodstock. And for those who don't know, Woodstock is like a music festival that they had in New York. And this particular one that DMX is featured on, that was back in 1999. And I think at that particular, like that certain video, there was like over 200,000 people in the crowd. Jeez, and just to put that into
200,000 people.
And just to put that into like perspective, the biggest stadium, not only in the US but in the entire world, can only hold, I want to say like about 115,000 people. So
that's the biggest.
Stadium, like as far as like even if it's like
inside. You're saying,
yeah. Oh, it's like an arena. So it's not covered, but it's an arena. That one holds I think 115,000, if I'm not mistaken. So almost double that amount, and then you're not even putting these people in like an elevated area. So like the higher they go, they can still see. It's just like a flat
plain.
Yeah, I think it was an Air Force. A military Air Force base.
Oh, it was like an old
it was like a big old like area where they were able to do it.
Jeez.
And a lot of different artists would come and do this. But before we even talk about Woodstock 99, I want to take it back to Woodstock 69.
That was the original one.
Yeah, that was the original one. And it was, what's it called? Woodstock was a music festival that took place in Bethel, New York. And it was billed as an Aquarian exposition, 3 days of music and peace. So that was like what it was supposed to be. And this started back in 1969 in New York. And it was originally a rock festival. And it had 32 acts, and it was like a whole weekend of just like some of people's favorite artists kind of put into one weekend, and it was this weekend was absolutely insane. There was over 400,000 people in attendance within the span of 3 days, and this was rain or shine. So if it rained, it didn't matter, and unfortunately for them, it did rain. So I was looking at pictures of Woodstock 69. Pause. I'm just kidding. I'll stop saying that. I was looking at some pictures, and you can see it's just like a sea of people, and then there's like mud everywhere. It's like they had like little stands here and there,
Chaos,
but
man. That sounds like chaos,
dude. 400,000 people within the span of 3 days. It was just crazy. A year later, there was actually a documentary on Woodstock 69. That was called one of the most entertaining documents ever made, and that was Entertainment Weekly had said that.
Wow, I need to watch that.
It's insane, man. The festival was held in Bethel, New York, in Sullivan County, and Sullivan County actually they pleaded a state of emergency.
Wow,
because of how many people were there. Like it just got too out of hand where people were coming in, they were causing like a ruckus, and there was just a lot of chaos going on. Like you can imagine alcohol, people
mosh
fighting, it's just like rock music.
Nuts,
it's just absolutely nuts. It was recorded that there were 2 births at this festival and 6 miscarriages, which is a crazy stat.
Shit,
it was
man.
just like people did not care. Like they just wanted to be there. So there was a total of 3 Woodstock festivals. There was one in 69, there was one in 94 for the 25th anniversary, and then there was 99, which is the one where you see DMX. In 94, so Woodstock 94 was the 25th anniversary of Woodstock 69, and this one was a lot more calm, I guess. Like it wasn't as destructive, I guess. However, it was Woodstock 94 was the biggest festival in history. There was no bigger festival, like as far as like the amount of people that went.
And it was calmer than the first one?
It was calmer than the first one, which I think they maybe had, like, they learned how to control it, I guess.
Wow.
But it was still like I said, it was the most people that ever been in one place at one time as far as like music goes. It's been recorded that there were 164,000 tickets sold, but there was 550,000 people in attendance from the weekend of August 12th through August 14th.
Oh, that's like double from the first
that's
one.
That's what I'm saying.
Jesus.
So that was like Woodstock has just been like breaking barriers, and then it came back in '99, and that's where we saw DMX. And for Woodstock '99, there was 400,000 people at that one, so it wasn't as big as Woodstock '94, but this one I would say, and this one was probably the most chaotic, and I think why they don't do Woodstock anymore is because of Woodstock 99. MTV had a pay-per-view broadcast on Woodstock 99, and it was made available on DVD. I mean, y'all can check it out if y'all want. It's crazy. You could probably look up some videos, but 99 was definitely the most problematic. There was the most cases of violence, sexual assault, rape, looting, fires took place. Like this, it was just absolute chaos.
That's crazy.
And Michael Land, who is the co-founder of this event, said that there was very little control over this event. So that this was like, and that's why they don't do it anymore, because it was just too much. So if you're wondering if there's ever going to be a festival like that, or like, you know, if you saw that video,
imagine Woodstock 2021.
That
would that look like?
You know who I want to see at a Woodstock? I would like, if I were to see somebody, a Travis Scott. I would love to see a Travis Scott.
People would go crazy, man.
Dude, because just like the energy he brings to, or like a Bad Bunny. Imagine Bad Bunny at a Woodstock, bro.
That'd be crazy.
but
Damn, I remember, and back to the Drink Champs episode, DMX, he touches on Woodstock 99, and he said that it was his favorite performance ever, because it was crazy. I remember even in that video that you see that floats around, you can see like mosh pits in the crowd, and you can see just how crazy it was even just from that little clip. But damn, now just imagine how with that many people, man, some shit's bound to happen.
Yeah,
man. A lot of
definitely.
shit's bound to happen, man. Fucking DMX, that's crazy. That's crazy. Obviously, when he came out, I was a baby, man, when he came out. So I wasn't physically there to experience his impact. So I can't really speak to that, but I know that it was huge, man. It was huge impact. It was one of the, I'm telling you, man, people were saying this guy, comparing him to Pac. They're at the time, Pac and Biggie had just died. So they were looking for who's that next superstar, who's that next one, and it was DMX, man. He influenced a lot of people. We didn't touch on the Rough Riders. That's a whole different thing that we'll bring to you guys on the different episode. But that in itself, if you know the story of Rough Riders, he brought up a whole bunch of people with him. He was always that kind of guy, man. So hip hop is gonna mourn him for sure. But at the same time, I've seen a lot of posts from all his really close people that in hip hop, and they all say, let's not get sad over this. Like, he's finally, they know what he dealt with growing up, so they're saying he's finally at peace. He's finally gets to chill out, gets to rest now, and he definitely left a legacy behind, man. And that's the kind of shit we talked about it about Nip. I think it was last episode. What are you gonna leave behind? What are you gonna leave behind as far as your legacy goes? And he left a lot, man. He left a whole lot. And I just hope like the younger generation gets to listen to his music and appreciate it, just as as people did that came up with him. I'm curious to ask like my older like brothers and cousins and friends about what if because they were there for that impact. So just to ask them about what of DMX.
I think he just brought something totally new to the genre, like that where my dogs at, what like it was just it was someone that you wanted to emulate and someone that you wanted to be. It was like that swagger and that confidence that he brought, that I think was the most impactful. Like he created like that rebellion, let's go do this, like me and my dogs, let's go. That's
and what's that he mentioned on the Drink Champs episode of that he was working on a new album, and he had a bunch of the new guys. Some of the artists that he had Griselda on there. He had Pop Smoke on the new album. I think he said Usher, some other newer rappers. But so hopefully they put it out.
I think they will.
Yeah, I think they will.
Especially, it'll probably do numbers. Especially if there is a Pop Smoke or. And I hate to talk about it. It's just like, remember, I think I said it last week, and it's like when it comes to death and going to jail, like it's just touchy. Like, but what I mean, it is what
for
it
me,
is.
it's like I'm just I don't know. I think it's cool that like yes, you're gonna have that people are like, people are gonna feel like it's fake love, but at the same time, a legend passed, man. Let's just appreciate his music. Let's run up the numbers, man. Let's do it. And, I'm cool with that. He was a legend, so, of course, man. So, shout out to DMX. Rest in peace. Rest in peace to Aaliyah as well. They were very close.
So that was our episode where we celebrated the life of DMX, and we wanted to say thank you guys for listening. Shout out to all the hip-hop heads. Shout out to DMX. Rest in peace. Shout out to Rough Riders, man. Y'all still with us. Make sure y'all subscribe to our pod if you guys like what you hear. Make sure y'all follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at HH Cloverleaf. You could be anywhere in the world right now, but you are here with us, and we appreciate that. This is Hip Hop Cloverleaf. Peace.